L. Ron Howard wanted to start a cult.
L. Ron Hubbard.
That's 100% L. Ron Howard.
It's 100% L. Ron Hubbard.
It's 100% L. Ron Howard. 100%. What you gotta do is break him down. You gotta L. Ron Howard him.
That's not a thing. So much about Scientology except the guy's name. That's the easiest part of it. What was it? Was he invent Scientology like after he directed Backdraft in Apollo 13?
No, that was Ron Howard. I'm talking about L. Ron Howard.
Oh my God.
Guys, can we please stop?
That's never not good. Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, Sterling. Good to see you. Welcome back. Happy New Year. We missed you while you were away, but hey, here you are.
You too. You too. Hey, you know, it makes me think every once in a while, what if someone had done the titles to the film and misspelled Hubbard's name just once or in any part of it, and that had gotten through quality control and actually been published with the wrong last name? What would the ramifications have been?
Yeah, it would be like a three-legged buffalo nickel. It would just be like insanely valuable. Right? Was that the buffalo nickel? I think that was.
That might have been the buffalo nickel.
I think it was.
Well, hey, you know what? I'm looking at some of the chat before we're starting here. Thank you for everyone that is here. I really appreciate that. And
you and me both.
Yeah, this seems like a good time. You know, and I never really do videos in the middle of the day, and it's usually because I kind of do a morning and I use the afternoon for stuff, and then I do it later in the afternoon. But this may be a great time for you, and
also it's really good for EU. When I got the coverage, I got a couple of TV shows in Germany, and I got a lot of messages saying, "Hey." I mean, and also I asked people, when would you like? And they were all like between 12 and 2, because it's evening in EU, and a lot of them like to sit down with a big ass beer and watch us. So,
I think that's a stereotype on I think it's just the Germans that have the big ass beers.
Yeah, they hate Scientology in Germany the same way they loved David Hasselhoff. Okay, like those two things. So they love David Hasselhoff. They hated Scientology. So good on them.
Comparable magnitude there. That's a perfect description.
Yeah, apparently in Germany, Scientologists aren't allowed to speak to public in public. Like they can't recruit on the streets. They're just banned from doing that. So there's never going to be an audit Germany because it's just against the law for them to go out and do that. So.
Well, good for them. Good for them. That's actually fantastic. I did not know that. You know, bravo to Germany for that. They have some balls. They have some balls. They're stepping up there. Well, today, you know, as usual, we didn't really discuss what we were going to talk about, but I think I did tell you what I was interested in. Guys, I am so close to finishing Mitch's book. Now, as you guys know, and maybe not totally fair because I kind of praise every book that I read, but I do have some favorites. Guys, if you haven't purchased it already, it is called Scientology, The Big Lie by Mitch Brisker.
And there's a subtitle. Read the subtitle.
Oh, yes. How I Made an Evil Cult Look Good.
Yeah.
Guys, I got my little notes and tabbies. I have content for days to talk about this. Now, it is particularly close to me because I spent a lot of my time in the C organization at Golden Air Productions was mirrored with Mitch. He arrived there only a couple years before me and left, you know, maybe like 6 years after I did. So I have a lot of
certainly, what year did you leave again?
I left in 2004.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. So you were there for 14 years or 12 years of this stuff in this book. You were definitely there
for a lot of it, and even the stuff after that I saw at the events that were being covered. You give so much background data to that I did not know. You give the inside workings of what was going through Dave Miscavige's mind while it was happening, the people you were working with, people that I know, and so I found a lot of the content so far. And again, I'm almost done, not totally done. It's kind of like if you see a major event and you see something occur and you wonder what really happened behind the scenes, your book is describing what happened in great detail and great writing, what happened behind the scenes. It really is entertaining to read. It's informative. And I do really think your take on a lot of the cast of characters, and I'm going to refer to them as characters, in Scientology, Dave Miscavige, Jenny Linson, Mark Yeager, the people that you mention in your book. Some you don't mention.
People that I knew and worked with.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me because, you know, it gives a different view of those particular people. So anyways, enough on that part. If you're okay with it, I'm going to pull up a section of your book that I specifically tabbed that I thought, again, I want to make this point. it's not just that he's describing things that happen behind the scenes. It's the way you write them, Mitch. Is the prose the right word? I'm trying to.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, that works. Okay. Narrative prose, that works.
Is excellent, and I'm just thankful that Danny Sherman did not write this book, because I would have been crazy.
I've even got some interesting anecdotes about Danny.
I saw those. I kind of just finished those before I closed the book and got ready for this live. And my experience with Danny Sherman, I maybe ran into him once and said hi to him once in the 14 whatever I was there. But to hear the behind the scenes and his kind of attitude towards stuff, I was a little shocked.
Wow. We were friends for a long time until we were no longer friends.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, guys, I'm going to put on my old man glasses. So 1 second.
Hey, wait a minute. Let me
I'm not throwing shade at you, Mitch. I'm not throwing shade at you.
No, you look younger. You look.
This is how I look smart. Okay, so I thought this was a fascinating, great kickoff.
Well, if you want to really look smart, you need to shave your hair. So.
That's apparently the trick, right? Okay. If it makes me smart as Aaron, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so this is a great little line, and this is in reference to something that happened so many times while I was there, and I didn't even know that you had experienced this part. But a very natural occurrence when staff members leave the SEER organization, and more specifically, Golden Era Productions or the international base. There are stories that are spread around, never in writing, but spread around about how bad those individuals are, what they're getting up to, their sexcapades, they're joining a witchcraft cult, all these sort of things. And you know what's interesting is that David Miscavige is usually the one that starts that. So if you think that dude isn't paying attention to every single thing that happens and person that leaves,
and reading people's folders.
Yes. So I'm going to read this line, and Mitch, you're going to have plenty of time to talk about it. But so this is referring to a staff member that you were working with on the tech training films back in the. And by the way, when we're done with this live, you have to tell me who it is.
No problem.
In keeping with the tradition at Gold of telling demeaning stories about any fellow Sea Org member who escaped, she had supposedly, this is the person that had left. The property that Mitch was working with, hopped the fence, quote unquote, a local euphemism for escaping, to rejoin an ex-husband whom she had known when she was a helicopter mechanic in the Army, gave up Scientology, and returned to her former practice of witchcraft. Okay.
Now some of the stories were like, so-and-so had been incestuous with their father, or some of them were just really disgusting. In this case, those were probably all true. What was being said about her. That was Jennifer Demers. Did you ever know Jennifer? Jennifer was the art director.
That was Jennifer Demers?
Yeah, that was the art director when I first went up there. And
I remember her now.
Yeah, for me, she was a nightmare because all we did was argue. Then she jumped the fence one day, which is, we used to call it, what did they used to refer to it? You either jumped the fence or took a walk. Oh yeah, no, they took a walk. It was always like motorcycle racers have euphemisms. They never say I crashed. They say I got off the bike. Right? There's a lot of people like special forces have a euphemism. They never say I almost died. They never describe a mission as being, they almost got killed. They say it was fascinating. And then if people hear that, they know, oh, you almost died.
Yeah.
So in the Sea Org, what I witnessed was people saying they jumped the fence or they took a walk. So
interesting. It's funny because they're even protecting themselves from the phrases that may
like
cause
I never
them.
heard they blew. I never heard nobody said that.
Yeah.
They said something usually, and maybe it was they took a hike because they wanted to hook up with somebody in town. It'd be this whole ugly freaking narrative like whatever. They wanted to leave.
Yeah.
But as far as I was concerned, but as far as I was concerned with her, it was good riddance. Because all we did was argue constantly. We had opposing tastes. And so I was relieved when she left. And she had this young 22-year-old Scandinavian assistant named Henning Bendorf, who today has a huge role in what the church visually looks like. And then I took him and I said, okay, you're going to help me finish these films. And I apprenticed him as an art director, and then he went on to be in charge of design for all of Scientology. So.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, yeah, that was Jennifer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I worked under Henning for like 3 or 4 years, and my last 3 or 4 years at Golden Ear Productions. Even though he was the cine art director, he was directing the book cover design for the basic books. And
and then he slowly moved over to be. He moved out of. Miscavige moved him out of cine and into just general design. He was always more in marketing than he was.
Yes.
Then, today he's at S&P doing that.
So true. Well, and so the subject is it's interesting and it's fascinating that there was 2 things that happened when staff members left. Let's just say 3, and I'm going to tell you what 3 I think they are, and you can give me your version of that. But one interesting fact was that whenever someone left, and usually you knew that person was about to leave because of the abuse that was happening prior, the amount of traffic about that individual from Dave and negative traffic would usually mean that person was going to go pretty soon. And so once they left, there was always this little rumor mongering going around. Well, look at how much better everything is. And maybe for the first 2 or 3 weeks, Dave starts approving stuff from the new guy that's replaced him in that position or is favorable to him. But then 2 or 3 weeks goes by and all of a sudden everyone's in shits again. That's the first thing. The idea that guy's gone and he was the actual reason that everything wasn't working.
Yeah.
And that's only if they actually really, really got out.
Yeah. When somebody does jump the fence or take a hike, they become the reason for why everything is screwed up.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Then
sometimes you become the reason before you take a hike.
Yeah.
And then you take a hike because they made you the reason and they make your life so miserable.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And again, that's a big part of the brainwashing and grooming and whatever other word you want to use for it. That is a major part of it there, I think. And that's also a major part of the psychological damage that happens there.
Right.
And at least from my perspective, because, not everyone got a beating from Dave. Not everyone was hit, but everybody was absolutely psychologically traumatized. If you somehow missed out on that, and you were the luckiest guy on the planet, because I don't believe anyone skipped out on that. And you were not a Sea Org member on the property, Mitch, and you got that.
I got some verbal abuse. Not until later. Not until way later. Because, there were a few of us, I forgot the only thing about going on Wednesday is you're going to hear a leaf blower outside my little studio.
I can't.
Yeah, these mics don't pick it up that well. Yeah. I didn't get it. Danny Sherman didn't get it. There's a lot of people that didn't receive that, but we started to witness it after a while. And then I got some, later in my career working for the church, I've got some severe verbal abuse, to the point of possibly one of the reasons they don't forgive me is because I'm older and because I went through all of that verbal abuse. I have such a good lawsuit. I mean, I have attorneys reaching out to me saying, "Are you sure you don't want to just sue them?" So I'm like,
right.
It's kind of like I'm just holding up back on that. But yeah, I was lucky. I didn't experience a lot of that, but I witnessed it, and witnessing it, which is the biggest witness event of that nature, which I saw, which I describe in the book, is really one of the things that was like a wedge that drove between me and my attachment to Scientology. So, right.
And we'll save that for the people that read the book.
Yeah, sure.
There's so much content. But do you remember specifically, and from your position, you obviously described the Jennifer Demir's story about, I didn't know she was a helicopter mechanic. That's the other thing.
She had done. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes you find the most amazing people have some of the most amazing jobs before they got in Scientology.
Yeah, I mean, I knew she came from, because I worked with her a lot. She'd been a helicopter pilot in the Army, which is a really high level competent field. I mean, you have to be very competent. That's a life and death field. You need to be a real professional about that. And she'd done some community theater, and so that is where she got her art director theater training. And she didn't understand film. I mean, nobody at Golden Ear Productions did understand film, because L. Ron Hubbard didn't understand film. So she designed sets. This is kind of an aside. She designed sets very frontal, like you would design a set stage. Yeah. Not three-dimensionally, that you were going to have a camera moving around in it. So we really banged heads a lot. Like I was just like, you know, the day I was told she left, I was just like, oh, thank God. It was like my
Well, she sounds like
dreams have come true.
Yeah, sounds like she designed a set that it was going to be in a gymnasium, and it was going to be a you know, one level set, which is
it was going to be like what we were in the theater world you referred to as a proscenium arch, that it was always going to be seen. She always viewed it through the proscenium arch of a stage and never filmically, so it was very frustrating to work with her.
Yeah, you talked about that as well in the book, which I found fascinating. Is like, it is quite unbelievable that in the SEAL organization, they put individuals on positions and say, just go ahead and do it. And some of these positions are either dangerous or highly technical.
And
they don't, and they will yell and scream at them for not doing their job, but give them absolutely zero training.
Or some training, but not enough training.
Yeah.
And they really don't get the apprenticeships, even though, you know, Hubbard wrote a lot about the importance of apprenticeships. But when you're teaching people with Hubbard film technology, you know, which are just his essays on what he thought, and then you're apprenticing people to work with those people. I mean, it's the bland leading the bland. You know, nobody ever really gets anywhere that way. You know, they've done some other things. Like one of the reasons, for example, that the material, the broadcast material coming out of S&P the graphics look so nice and slick. They took some of their people and they literally Sea Org members, a couple, and they dropped them into some of the best special effects houses in Hollywood and let them work there for like a year and a half. I don't know what they did with the money they made. Maybe they were just, what do you call it? You know, that they were volunteering or whatever. But some of them got some really good training. I don't know why they didn't leave, because some of them are really good. But
to clarify, because someone that was there would say, oh no, we did training. No, proper training was the word I would like to use.
I mean, but sometimes, like, I know you worked on trees, right? And the trees at Gold were great. I know that when Joe Canine got busted out of Cine because I replaced him as a director, he somehow got himself high-level training as an arborist. So somehow, in spite of all of that, and did a really good job. Then he left, and today I hope he's a wealthy man with an arbor business. So.
Yeah, and that was a lot of stuff like that was self-driven. When Jesse Ratcham worked in the trees department, and Gil Llewellyn, who really was the genius behind the beauty of the trees at Golden Era Productions. You know, I was kind of just the truck driver and the operator, and you know, kind of ran the whole thing. But Gil was the artist. But what I'm saying is, what I think I'm saying is that. And I guess tree trimming is technical. Operating heavy equipment is very technical. But in the case of a cine type position, a lot of people would go in there, they would read the LRH basics, and then start working. And if they made a mistake,
you had a couple of classes you had to take, a couple of courses, and then you went to work, and it was really frustrating. It was really frustrating for me.
No trial.
Some of these people. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Hubbard made a big deal about. You should be professional in everything that you do. If you're cleaning a toilet, be a professional. If you're cooking, be a professional. If you're a cinematographer, whatever. And this is not a new idea. I mean, in Japanese, especially in artistic pursuits, but because I'm such a Japanophile, but that, you know, I have this as context, but there's very much this idea that you should always, whatever it is you're trying to do, you should always try to achieve perfection with that thing. You're not expected to be perfect, but you're always expected to be on this journey of seeking perfection. It's a really beautiful philosophy. In Hubbard's case, and in the case of the Sea Org, you're supposed to be a professional. It's enforced on you. You can't enforce that on a person. That has to be a self-elected thing. But there, it's enforced. If you do something at a lower level than being a professional, you get in a lot of trouble. And yet you're not given the resources or the training or the time to learn that you really need to do it. So it's very frustrating. I mean,
and you do not get you don't necessarily get an apprenticeship or an ability to practice that trade long enough to get good at it. You're put in the hot seat right away. And that's an immense amount of pressure for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a few people who do well at technical posts, to their credit, because they are inherently talented, smart people. There's a few people. There's been a couple of cameramen and maybe one editor and some people that aren't just painting by the numbers and
SFX. Yeah, there's some SFX guys.
Some people in visual effects and like that. But for the most part, it's very frustrating. Because, people get posted, and because David Miscavige liked to bust people, which is, they don't fire people. You get busted and you get moved from one post to another, or you get moved to the RPF, or you get moved to grounds or the kitchen. Kind of, there's different gradient levels depending on how bad
you
react.
did.
Yeah, or how bad they react to what you did, because two different people do the same thing could receive two different penalties. So it's very uneven. But he loved to bust people into cine, as we called it, into the filmmaking division. So then you'd end up with these people in skilled posts. The biggest problem was props, and since we're getting specific. That was always a nightmare because of the way that Hubbard organized the art department. There's no greater evidence that he knew nothing about filmmaking than the way he organized the art department, because it is just the most clueless, ridiculous way to do it.
You mentioned in your book that it's old circa 1920s Hollywood, even with the labels.
But that's both a good and bad thing. Yeah, that's in it. Yeah, that's the Thomas Ince story. Yeah, it is based on the original studio system, except there's a couple of departments that are left out, and there's a couple of key posts that are left out because Hubbard never experienced them. Specifically, there's no production designer, and there's no what's called a set decorator, which is, set decorators in the movie business, they win Oscars, but at all, there's no set decorators. So it's kind of all left up to props, and the whole thing's a disaster. And I stayed there a lot of time because I thought I could change things. I thought Scientology was a good thing, but ultimately it didn't turn out that way.
I wish so bad that we had a copy of L. Ron Hubbard's original TR's film.
I even the one
we could show.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So we could show how amateur, how bad it was, how much he thought he had the keys to success for doing films. It was horrific. It's about as horrific. And I just finished reading your book, the subject of the Superpower. The construction,
the reality distortion machine.
Yes. And it's brilliant because in that one chapter, you lay out the farce that is Scientology in itself. You really do. You show that it's off the cuff. Hey guys, he didn't really finish writing this. Let's see if we can throw something together and nail it down and get something that makes sense.
He didn't do anything on that. People are paying all this money to do Superpower, and they think it's like something to do with L. Ron Hubbard, and has nothing to do with him. There's a list of 52 perceptions in Scientology. It doesn't exist. There's like saline content. Your ability to perceive your saline content is supposedly a perception, just like smell or sight or sound. And there's a list of these, and he said, hey, we should come up with drills so people could drill each one of those. And then from there, we made it all up. These are not the auditing processes in Superpower. This is the high-end stuff that's on the fourth floor that is the thing that they use to market it. But the really interesting thing about Superpower is that when Hubbard first started making films in 1978 at his headquarters in La Quinta, which is near Palm Springs, California, in the desert. When he started making films from there, they were so horrible that rather than identify the lack of filmmaking ability with lack of experience, lack of education, he decided that it was a spiritual disability. That the reason these guys, one of which was David Miscavige, Norman Starkey was there, a bunch of other people.
Marcus, your favorite person?
Yeah, Marcus was there, my favorite cameraman. Yeah. It's because they were spiritually deficient. So he came up with Superpower as a way to fix them so that they could make films, as opposed to, actually getting them some real education, some real experience, maybe giving them a little room to breathe in, maybe saying, why don't you all go and make your own 10-minute film and we'll have a little film festival. The way that people normally learn these things from. Anyway, but
I want to ask you that question. Yeah. I think, because I want your opinion. I think your opinion is valuable on this particular point. Why do you think someone, besides some of the obvious answers to L. Ron Hubbard's personality disorders, right, why would you think that something which it would be so simple to just train people correctly, why do you think he would concoct some 12-point superpower thing, besides the fact that probably superpower was a key word or a strong word to use at the time? Why would he create something like that to supplant what seemingly is just a simple train people correctly and get some outside people who know what they're doing to show you how to do things?
Well, I think because his perception of those people was that they were so deficient in many different things, talent, mental acuity, and so forth, that he felt that he had to fix them before they could do that. Plus, I think he had a credible misperception about human nature, how people learn, how people react, how they respond, how they remember things. I think he was so off on all this stuff.
I mean, clearly off on memory. We know that for a fact now.
Well, big time. Yeah, big time. So I think because he was also such a narcissist in the sense that his main purpose in life was to somehow carve his name big across the sky and have it last in history forever. So,
with his attempt at science fiction films, right? After Star Wars.
Yeah. Or, putting all of his work in these caves and making sure that nobody else could take the church over and become a noted individual. People, after he died, people were supposed to just be anonymously running it. Of course, Miscavige figured out that the three main entities that he left, Church of Spiritual Technology, Church of Scientology International, and RTC, Religious Technology Center, he just needed to get hold of, become the power of each of those three, and then he could take the whole thing over.
Yeah, which again is interesting. It's something I didn't even think of until I was reading your book on the subject. And of course, guys, hey, everyone can have different opinions and different ways to look at these things. But the fun part is hearing all the different versions from different people from their perspective. Mitch, do you think that Dave Miscavige was ever truly embarrassed about participating in the original TR films with L. Ron Hubbard? Because he absolutely did know how bad they were. Did he ever?
Oh, he absolutely did. And so did L. Ron Hubbard, according to Miscavige. Yeah, because what Dave told me, okay, so here was the thing.
Yeah.
You know this, that the Professional TRS film, the one that Hubbard did, it was never going to be redone because L. Ron Hubbard directed people himself doing these steps, these things you need to do in auditing, because he was the guy on the set directing it. We'd never do it again, no matter how bad it was. And then, so all the films were done except that one. Miscavige came to me and he said, we need to remake that film because everybody in it is like a declared SP. Like, like Dan Kuhn is the star of it, He said, we need to remake it. He said, and by the way, Hubbard hated that film. And I'm like, what?
Really?
And he said, oh, yeah. He hated that film. I mean, the whole backstory on the technical training films was when Hubbard is, well, I'm not going to, it's a long story. You need to read about it because I trace the whole, how those films came to be needed and made. But part of the backstory is that he's at La Quinta, and he's going to make these films, these horrible films, and that everybody's sucking at making them. And so he orders his people in LA to videotape auditors at the LA organization. This is a pretty well-known fact, to get videotapes of their auditing so he can see the state of their auditing ability so that he can then make films to train them. And it was so horrible. Their auditing ability, according to him, was so horrible. And keep in mind, they'd been trained according to his writings and so forth. Yeah. They were so horrible. He invited a bunch of them, meaning they had to come up to where he was. A bunch of them, like Dan Kuhn, joined the Sea Org and then helped to make the films. But I mean, he hated their auditing. He hated so Miscavige is telling me he hated the film. And then I'm given access to videotapes of Hubbard directing the film, like they followed him around with a microphone, and he was just critical and pissed off nonstop, about.
He was starting to lose it at that point a little bit. I mean, Janet has fantastic stories about that.
I mean, she spent a lot. I didn't know him then. I just heard the videotapes, but I mean, I heard these audio recordings of him directing. But yeah, I mean, he was not somebody I would have wanted to work for. He was a very frustrating person. They'd be all like, "Sir, so what's the next shot?" This guy's the director, and he says, well, I don't know. What do you guys want to do? I mean, that's like the worst thing you could possibly say to
Are you kidding me? He said those words. What do you guys want to do?
Well, what do you guys want to do?
Okay.
So,
all right.
So anyway, it's just not good leadership. But anyway, so I discovered that he hated the film. And then the big secret is, well, all the public know that it sucks too. It's just nobody says anything. Like, and this is a total fact. Like, he's really being truthful about it. He says, so we need to remake it.
Hubbard's track record You know, he wished he was Ron Howard. His track record,
yeah, no
with film is astonishing.
It's abysmal.
He makes a film that's crap. He writes a film. What is it? To the Stars? Something to the Stars. It's crap.
Oh, the Battle Beyond the Stars.
Battle Beyond the Stars. His book, which actually arguably, I mean, even Aaron says he liked Battlefield Earth, and so did I actually when I read it. I really did enjoy Battlefield Earth.
I thought it was so-so. I thought it was like...
Yeah, but I thought
it would have been a better series of comic books because it was that kind of.
But you know. I'm a popcorn guy, and we already know you're a sophisticated film guy.
No, that's not true. I mean, Armageddon is there is a. I'm just going to stop you right there, okay? Because
it's not an insult.
No, I know that, but I want to give a clarification.
Yes, please go.
So that people understand my thinking about film. There is a category of film which me and a great other supposed intellectual cineastas completely acknowledge the validity of, and they're called guilty pleasures. And it's a pretty much agreed upon thing that probably the greatest guilty pleasure ever made was Armageddon. Okay, so we really appreciate those kind of films because that is a valid genre.
Right.
Okay,
right.
But I'm sorry, Mission Earth is never going to be a guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
it's So that anyway, I said my piece.
Yeah. So I'm just saying it's funny. L. Ron Hubbard had just a terrible history because then they did make Battlefield Earth and it was complete shit. It was so bad. I remember
when the screenwriter, I can't think of his name, when he comes out publicly and says, "I apologize for making the suckiest movie ever."
Did he say that?
The screenwriter said that. He wrote that. Like, that's a quote. You can Google that. I apologize for having written the suckiest movie ever.
Wow. Well, you know what? There's so much different content in SPTV, and I think one of the things that your book does, and one of the results we can achieve from talking about your book and your inside view to all this, is we can chip away at that supposed armor that Scientology, one, is super sophisticated, and two, is super competent and does not make mistakes. Because some of the stuff you dealt with at Golden Air Productions and I dealt with working there is so stupid and imbecile and ridiculous that I got to argue. I mean, except for cleaning and renovating old historic buildings, they really do suck at so many things and are so inefficient. And, you know, because they have slave labor, they can get away with it. But in any other corporation or company, Dave Miscavige is fired after the first year. He is a horrible manager.
Yeah.
Horrible manager. He's just got a lot of money behind him. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, consider this. Okay. Consider this. The things that they have pulled off. You mentioned renovations and the buildings. Miscavige refers to them as statement buildings. Like he wants to buy these statement buildings and then renovate them because they don't really have the money to buy a building, tear it down, and build a new building because that's way more expensive than what they're doing. So they've built. I mean, I think the Flag Building was the only new building they've built in like ever. So, except for the crappy buildings of gold that just look like stucco monstrosities.
Scottish motif with exterior stucco of the castle.
Yeah, but here's the point. My point is the things that they have pulled off, they've never pulled anything off without going outside and hiring the very best people that they could hire to do it. They have Gensler Architects, world-renowned architectural and construction management company doing the ideal orgs. They had me and a couple other people that I brought up doing films. They had, you know, whoever it was, even back to the trees, Jesse or whoever it was that made that all happen, I guarantee you they were either in touch with, channeling, or reading somebody, an outside pro expert, and yet we have endless volumes of writings from L. Ron Hubbard about how he discovered the way to do something. So I think it's a testament to how, you know, just how shoddy that, and you know, what a bottomless pit of hypocrisy that Scientology is.
Absolutely. And it is. It's like they started sourcing stuff out eventually, finally, on some cases. But it is amazing the amount of inefficiency that'll happen before they get to that decision. And usually it's to pinch pennies. Usually it's like, no, why would we do that when we have our own people? To be clear, though, it was Gil Llewellyn who was the driving force behind the quality level of the trees department. He contacted the best arborists in the United States and got trained by them. And it was Joe Canine that started that whole thing.
Oh, yeah. And so, I remember. God, I remember now. They had a guy coming out there
Yep.
I remember that there was because I remember all of a sudden they were like wearing carabiners and they were wearing these harnesses and they were scaling the trees and learning all this. And then trees at Gold became a thing, you know.
Yeah, 60-foot trees. Now, I don't brag that much about my Sea Org career, but I have two things I can brag about. One is the peacocks were exceptionally well behaved, except for their shitting excursions and din management. And two,
but that was on purpose, I thought.
Yeah, like I said, they were exceptionally well behaved.
Yeah.
And then two, the trees were valued at, I believe I said in another video, 20 million. I may have said 10, but the trees were valued because they were so well pruned. The appraiser of the Golden Era Productions property said you can add 20 million value because of how well maintained your trees are. Another proof point
I don't know.
Dave Miscavige is a complete moron is that a month after that, he yelled at the trees guys, not yelled at them. He made derogatory comments to Lisa Schroer about the trees guys and how the trees look like Edward Scissorhands. Meanwhile, as you know, and everyone that was there knows, those trees were perfect. I'll give.
We used to shoot on the Gold grounds. Yeah, all different kinds of locations. Like when we would do those the galloping horses for the IS events, we would shoot on the grounds. I mean, that you could, a lot of those events, those videos are probably on YouTube. I mean, the grounds are just beautiful. Like there's no complaint about the grounds up there or the facilities or the technicality of the level of the equipment in the studio. That's not the problem. It's 100% how they treat their staff is the problem.
I agree 100% on that. I totally agree. Okay, so and you know what? I love this. I love that we're going and talking about different things and going off, but I did want to get back to, did you know any other staff members that left where that same treatment happened as an example? I mean, I have one, but I want you to go first, please.
What do you mean same treatment?
The dinner for meters. So they leave and you get told something that's ridiculously bad about them that is completely made up in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it in the book, but yeah, there was a woman who helped me, quote unquote, onboard me, like because they did what they call a quickie, means a really quick onboarding, because they needed to start shooting. So it was like, real quick, read this, sign that you read it here, checklist. Let me get you a 16-button phone. Let me get you this. Here's some forms. And so a nice person, right? And I think she was in CMON, or she was either CMON or somebody from in management, right? Above Gold. She was not a Gold person because she was like onboarding me. I don't know how else to put it. And then a couple of weeks later, she was nice and helpful. And A couple of weeks later, she's gone. And then all of a sudden, somebody I don't need to know anything. Like, you don't need to tell me shit. I could care less. And it's like, well, she was in a long-term relationship, incestuous relationship with her father. And I was just like, why are you even telling me this? Yeah. It was disturbing that somebody would say that, whether it was a lie or whether it was true. Obviously, it's more disturbing if it was a lie, but I was just like, yeah. I mean, most of the people I knew were from my crew, the ones that left, and I was a few of them, I was really, really sad to see them go. One of them, who's going to be nameless, who I actually owe a call, who was one of the early people that worked with me, became hugely successful.
Are we talking about the lighter? The gaffer?
Yeah.
I was going to mention him. That was the one on the top of my head that I was going to talk about because I knew him.
Yeah.
And and he was
guy.
Yeah, he was a go-getter, and I just remember.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite people on the crew. As a matter of fact, I mentioned him. I took him under my wing, and I remember I took him aside one day, and I said, just so you know, I would work with you on any film anywhere. I wasn't trying to tell him if you left, you could get a job. I was trying to say, you're so good, don't cut yourself short.
Yeah,
you're really good. And so when he left, I got raked over the coals as inspiring him to blow.
Well, did you you didn't tell his story in your book, did you then?
No, because I didn't tell it because he's never told it, and I didn't feel comfortable asking him.
It's been mentioned before, though. It has. I think Mark's.
Yeah, I know, but it's not. It's not a story that I talk about. I mean, I feel very close to the story.
Yeah.
Because
Well, in a nutshell, in a nutshell, I'm gonna explain what the story is without mentioning his name, just because I haven't spoken to him about it.
Yeah.
It's one of those stereotypical things, and it's so closely related to Dave Miscavige, and I'm sure I might not have every detail right. Of course, I heard about it after, but yeah. So basically, this guy was doing gaffing, right, lighting, on your sets. Gaffing, gaffer is the correct term.
He was a gaffer. He was actually what's called a best boy. Okay. Which is the gaffer as a lighting assistant, is that you have a chief gaffer and you have a best boy. So he was a best boy, and he was
this guy had hustle, man. This guy, when
he was born in the Sea Org. I mean, he was like maybe 19 when I met him, and born in the Sea Org.
To make the story short, is because we're gonna get into questions and answers shortly here. It's this guy had been asked to do a proposal, I believe, to outfit the City Castle with a new lighting system. Right. And his proposal was somewhere in the order of, I want to guess, and this is a complete guess, but it was somewhere in the $100,000s, not too high.
No, it's over $1 million.
Over $1 million, okay. Yeah. Anyways, so
and
as
it was
Dave
brilliant.
Miscavige,
it was brilliant. Okay, let me just add, his proposal was brilliant.
This was a guy that figured out how to do his job so well, and it's only proven by how well he's done after. So he gets his proposal. Now, typical of Dave Miscavige, who will spend hundreds of millions of dollars at a whim on anything he wants to, when he gets a proposal from a lower person, a minion, and it offends his sensibility, he destroys that person in public.
Yeah, he also, I just have to add, he made a big deal because the proposal included buying lights from Aeroflex, which is a German company. And even though we had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in Aeroflex camera equipment, David decided that Germany was an SP country because they were attacking Scientology at that time in Germany. And he accused this guy of like wanting to buy equipment from like an SP company. And he literally ridiculed this guy. He made his life so miserable. Right. He just disappeared one day. I didn't know what happened to him. Nobody would tell me.
And I remember when he disappeared because I was on the security special emergency team. So if there was a threat to the property, I would be one of the people that would be stationed along a section of the road. And Dave Miscavige actually said to a security guard who I knew, who told me later on that, I'm worried. Do you think this guy's going to come after me? David Miscavige knew how pissed off he made this person. Now, will this person ever go physically attack David Miscavige? No. But he was actually worried because he knew he ruined this guy's life, and he really did. He was married, he ruined that. Yeah. His mom was at the property, ruined that relationship. Right. He went out of his way to ruin this person. But what in just irony and karma, after all this was done and said, and this individual left and did his thing, and he stayed in contact with some people that I was in contact with, I heard from them that he made a boatload of money implementing a genius lighting system.
Yeah, but what he did was because he escaped. I'm just going to fill this part in.
Please do.
He escaped with $200 in his pocket and no hope of any kind of career. He went back to his home country. He went and got a job driving a truck for a motion picture lighting company. And he sort of worked his way up in that company. And at one point he proposed to the boss the same system that he proposed to David Miscavige. The boss said, that's genius. He invested money in it. That system, lighting system, was used on every Bourne film. It was used on a Tom Cruise movie. Which one? Day After Tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
And Tom Cruise, he told me that Tom Cruise on this film went to him, didn't know he was a declared SP, and said the same thing I said to him. I'd work with you anytime on any film. So it was just like.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
So I was put in touch with him because I kept hearing so-and-so wants to talk to you, really wants to talk to you, really wants to talk to you. So we connected one day last year. We spoke on the phone, and we were both practically in tears. And he said, it was because of you, Mitch, that I had the confidence and the courage to escape that place and have a life afterwards. And I was just like, oh my God.
Wow.
Because, I always had this pull to not want to leave people because, you at the end of the day, you talk to veterans and you say, what were you fighting for? And they'll say, the guy next to me. That's what I was fighting for. So there was some of that and, why I stayed there so long. So anyway, he's doing great. And I talk to him regularly. And
That's a
And,
fantastic. I mean, that's so good. That really is. That really, like when I hear that, I think this is also why it's so important in life in general, but also as a thing. You know, not everyone did it when they were there. There was times where I wish I hadn't cold shouldered someone that had gotten in trouble, and I had the bravery to walk up to the person, give them a pat on the back, whisper in their ear, and say, "Hey, you know, you got this. Don't worry about it. It's going to go away soon." But that just wasn't part of the culture there. It wasn't.
No, the culture is weird. It's like, you know, Gerald, who's just the Dur INR is one of the worst people in the world. I mean, this guy, like if some, you know, if you got a response from David Miscavige, because I was in communication with him constantly about projects I was working on, and if there was some problem, and that did happen, there'd be a problem. This guy he'd look at you like with such disdain. Remember that way he could, like look at you with such disdain, and then, you know, he might pull you in and rake you over the coals. He might not. You might just get this incredible cold shoulder thing. And then you fix the problem, and the next response you get is positive, and then you'll see this guy, and he'll be like, hey, thumbs up. And they're completely brainwashed and triggered and reflexive. Like they're not thinking about what it is they're experiencing. They're just reacting to this kind of this weird kind of cultural conditioning. So very strange.
Yeah. I know. I get that. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I always love hearing the stories where someone does get out and despite the conditioning and the psychological tortures, they make something of it. But that one particularly sticks in my memory because it lends itself to emphasize the stupidity, the ignorance, and the bad management of David Miscavige. For all you Scientologists that think he is the bee's knees, he is not. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a detractor and I'm no longer a Scientologist. I worked with a guy. He wasn't that smart. He did not figure out things. Yeah.
We all hope that somebody will listen to us who's in, but at least it's my theory that, because this is my own personal experience, that you don't start listening until your interaction with the church has risen to a level of abuse that softens you up to listening, and then you really start listening.
Oh, interesting. And I agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that. And you know,
because they think we're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they think we're just freaking crazy. That's why we can't go down to the test center. Although I might, it's just not as effective because they look at us and they're like, "No, you guys, you just went insane." You know, these people that are down there, auditing Scientology, they're upright citizens, man. They're like they're the citizenry rising up and picking up their pitchforks and torches. And, you know, what can you say about them? Yeah, they're religious bigots, but that doesn't work.
No, and it is. It's the amount, you know, and I've mentioned this the other day, that what William Gould is doing, keeping that in line, keeping that some sort of decorum in there so that it's effective and the police have nothing to go after is amazing, because what it does is it shows, because Scientology is going to do everything they can to try to make it seem like these are violent people. They're nasty. They're not. They're going, hey, there's something we can lend a hand to. We can step up and help at. Let's do this, and let's do it in some sort of way that makes sense. You know, the only part of me, and you know, people may not like this, but I feel sorry sometimes for the staff that are out there trying. And I only say that. I
know. I want to go down and talk to them. I want to tell them.
They're the victims. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I want to go down there and say, hey, guys, you may not know who I am because you're new, but I designed those displays there, and I can actually rattle off to you what films are on the menus on those things. And I got to tell you, it's propaganda. I did it for money. It's bullshit, and you need to get the fuck out.
Yeah, just your story about the writing, the script writing, and how certain words are changed that don't fit and stuff makes sense. But I just want to finish my point on that, so it's clear. So I don't feel sorry for them because they're doing things that are inappropriate and they're trying to get people into a cult. I feel sorry for them because they're out there and they don't know. They think they're just being attacked. And it does not include the security guards, because the security guards, I got no sympathy for. I'm sorry, I just do not.
They're just bad people.
Yeah, the staff that are out there that are thinking they're being attacked because they don't really know what Scientology does to people. They don't really know that getting people in is damaging, that every person they get in that has a family member could eventually be ruined. That's what I'm talking about. And
also the level of gaslighting and indoctrination is so intense that even if those people started receiving directly those staff, some of that abuse, they would think it's because they failed and they deserve it.
And it's a subject I would love to talk to you about. is the brainwashing factor of Scientology. And I think let's definitely do that in another live.
Okay.
If it's okay with you, we're going to bounce on some questions quickly,
yeah, let's
guys.
do that. Let me just say before we get the questions.
Please go ahead. You do that.
Point,
you say something. I'm going to look for questions.
Okay. At some point, let's talk about the part of the book before I got into Scientology and why I wrote it, because I think that's one of the most interesting things.
You got it. I would love to do that. Love to do that. Let's see here. I'm looking for questions for you. Let's just get it started here. For just Duchess Diana. Hello, everyone. Hello, Duchess Diana. How you doing? Thank you for being here. Patty Collins. I don't know who you're saying is funny. I'm assuming it's Mitch because I'm not funny. So thank you so much.
I was assuming it was you.
And the inappropriate heifer. Hey, you two gorgeous men.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna fight over you, heifer. So.
Barb tries, but you can call me Barbara. That's funny. Hi, Sterling. Watch both your lives. Very gracious and humble. Thank you so much. I try to be myself.
Barbara mods for me. She's really terrific.
You know what? I think all the mods are amazing. Witness, Germany is awesome. Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I do love Germany. It's one of my favorite.
I think she might be German. No, I don't know.
Oh,
no, I'm not.
Boda29, loved your book, Mitch.
Thank you,
yes.
and please don't forget to leave me an honest review on Amazon. It helps.
Yes, definitely.
And subscribe to my channel and hit all the good stuff.
Here, let me put up this. Guys, if you have not already subscribed to Mitch, I'm going to leave that up when we go through the comments. Please, guys, go subscribe to his channel. We're going to be doing a bunch more content together. Now that his book is written, it is a plethora of really good information and topics and talking points that I can't wait to dig into.
436 pages of, and I really strived to write it in such a way that it would have appeal way beyond just the Scientology community. And I have gotten reaches to possibly, turn it over to a mainstream publisher. I didn't want to do that initially because I wanted to have control. And it's a whole story. We'll talk
and I hope so. I hope so, Mitch, because I think it's also a contemporary view on Scientology, which not a lot of us have access to. So it's fascinating to see what's happening there now. This is a very good question from OBG Foster. Question: if you could remake any classic film, which one would you remake?
Well, if it's a classic film, I wouldn't remake it. I really get pissed off. Like I really admire Steven Spielberg very much, and the only film of his I've never seen is West Side Story. West Side Story is a seminal film for me. I saw it when I was 10 years old. I don't want my experience of West Side Story to be replaced by his film. So I would
even
not
that.
make. Yeah, so maybe there may be a film, I can't think of it right now, that I think isn't a classic, but didn't get its due and deserves to be reintroduced. I would remake a film like that, but I wouldn't remake a classic because it's a classic.
Just by definition.
Yeah.
Barb tries. I'm just going to call you Barb tries. I'm not going to read that out every time. I have heard so much about her. I feel like a whole stream should be about this Jenny Linson character.
Jenny Linson, yeah. Jenny is...
yeah, she's something else. I have my own personal story with her.
Well, I knew her since she was a little girl because I knew her mom.
Yeah.
So I knew her. I knew her before she was in the sewer, and because of my position, I never had it out with her. But she's an interesting.
It's interesting. Janice says that she was kind of normal and okay when she first arrived, but she may have been one of those people that, as they acquired more and more power, became more and more vicious.
Well, it's not just it's that, and then. The more you're around Miscavige, the more she was around him. It becomes like a survival mechanism to mirror him.
Yeah,
he very strongly, without saying it, encourages you to mirror his psychopathy. I mean, I saw this. I apprenticed a kid, young man who today is the director. Took over. He does my work. Does the ads for the Super Bowl. Blah blah blah. And they're really nice. Does films for the network. He does really nice work. The marketing writing, they don't have anybody. So like the most recent quote unquote Super Bowl ads are beautiful, but it's the worst writing ever. We can take that apart sometime, but
for sure.
But nonetheless, this guy, you know him. I'm talking about Winston Miller.
Yeah.
So he was always a really nice guy around me, but then I talked to other people, and he wasn't such a nice guy. Yeah. When I went off to work at SMP, he basically took over as the director, and when I came back, he was a little tyrant.
Yep.
Like he was a mean, nasty person. And Scientology just does this to people. Like the management style at Scientology is this. If your juniors, meaning the people that work under you, if they don't fear you, you are not a good management.
Yep.
You are not a good manager. That is 100% the management style.
Yep. That's so true. It's so true. Okay, here's an interesting one. Boda 29. I love all the books for SPTV fam. Everyone's stories are so similar, yet so different. Very well said, by the way. And I think everyone's story should be heard from Liz Gale, Janice, Jenna, and Mitch. We are so lucky to hear their point of views. I agree, Boda. That's actually where
and I've read Liz Gale's book. I interviewed her about her book. I love her book. And I've read Janice's first book, not the second one. And each one of them they're totally unique views. I mean, it's just like it's you'll never get to understand it until you kind of hear from everybody. So. And
I love that there's so many of them, because back in the day there would be one or two, and they wouldn't get around enough. You be honest, in the 70s and 80s, you couldn't really find out how bad Scientology was unless you went into it and saw it. Now the information's out there in book form.
Not until the internet. I mean, that changed
not until the internet, in documentary form, and now this whole YouTube energy that's just picking up more and more. You couldn't access it as easy. Now you got to be an idiot to join Scientology.
And social media has changed it's changed everything.
OBG Foster, I'm waiting for the audiobook. Well, I think that is the bunker that Mitch is in right now.
Here it is. Here's my other mic that I'm recording it on. Yeah, if I could just stop spending so much time on YouTube, I could probably get it done. So anyway, I'm only on I'm like through chapter 5 out of 26 chapters, but it's picking up because there were a lot of little technical difficulties. It's emotionally, I have to say, it's strenuous. Doing an audiobook, your own audiobook, is very strenuous, especially producing it yourself. If I was going into a studio for 6 hours a day and you have a producer like kicking your ass, it would be done really quickly, but it's,
Yeah, totally. I was reading a comment, Mitch, and I couldn't figure out what the person was talking about. So I got to pull it up now. Vegan 3. I just saw the indie list, which I'm assuming is the independent Scientology list, and somebody that spent decades at Golden Era. I'm sorry, but I worked with him and he was dumb.
Well, I think he said that when I was talking about Henning Bendorf. I'm not sure.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I don't know. Henning Bennifer was not dumb.
No, he was not dumb. He was.
No, he could be nasty, but was not dumb.
Yeah, he could be really nasty. But again, people would behave around me. It's one of the reasons why a lot of the staff were like, "Oh, Mitch, don't ever go anywhere," because even Miscavige would behave nicer around me because he didn't want me to see that shit. Because I was a person he could drag out to defend him, and when I really discovered that and how I was being manipulated, I was pissed off. I mean, when what's his name, Steve Tobin and Tobin and Childs, the guys who wrote, the Truth Rundown article for Tampa Bay Times. They had done a piece on Miscavige a few years before called "The Man Behind Scientology," and it wasn't bad. It was it was pretty even and balanced. They came out to gold. Dave trotted me out and said, "Hey, I want you to talk to these guys." And I sat there for 2 hours, and I said, "Yeah, I've worked with a lot of people. David Miscavige, he's inspiring, and he's a great manager." And I wasn't even doing it like a North Korean prisoner. I was just fucking, excuse my language, gaslit into doing it. So that's one of the reasons why he would kind of keep me in that, just ask Mitch, I'm a good guy. And then I'd walk away and he'd punch him in the face. But,
just ask Mitch, I'm a good guy. The second you were done, the people that were handling all the cameras and the lighting were thrown into the lake. Okay, here we got this one, which is interesting. Dirty Mouse. Hi, all. Love these Mitch and Sterling lives. Do we have a name for these yet? Stitch Live. Look, sometimes the magic happens on the naming, and if one of you guys come up with something, that would be great. I don't know if Sterling and Mitch will ever make that, but I do appreciate the effort. I really do. I think that's actually coming.
I'm not a super big fan of buzzwords. Maybe like bitchkins, like some.
Miss Sunrise Dawn, Mitch, I just got your book today. Going to start reading it later today when the little one goes to bed. Awesome. Please, guys, if you've not.
Yeah, it's not. You don't want to be reading the little one. That's not a bedtime story.
No, please do not read the little one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what else we have. What's this? Love Fu Kitchen. I'm enjoying the leaf blower. It sounds like a troop of bagpipers serenading Mitch and the people of Studio City.
Yeah. They're gone. They just make a quick pass by, but yeah.
Okay. Hey, Arun Skysting. God, you sound like you're a Jedi.
Arun Skysting. I think it's like
esoteric COB RTC greetings from Scandinavia.
Nice.
Thank you so much. I'm awesome. You guys are here.
I think there is. I think it's Norway. It is one of the Scandinavian countries where there is zero Scientology. So
yes.
Congratulations for being in a zero Scientology part of the world.
And Saudi Arabia too. Saudi Arabia, zero Scientology.
Yeah, well, yeah. Who wants to have their hands? Who wants to have their hands chopped off just because they passed an MU? I can't imagine what Saudi Arabia Scientology would be like.
That would be mixing two things that do not go well together. Lydia von Stretchclaw, thank you so much. We need a full video of the evils of Jenny Linson. I agree. I think it would have to be a panel. Yeah. Panel, because I don't think we all have a billion stories, but we all have individual stories. But I'm not so for her, I would make an effort to put that together because I found her horrific. I could probably fake my way through an hour on Jenny Linson. I could just talk about the whole holding me upside down and shaking the change out of my pants in front of
that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
So there we go. The bland leading philosophy, the bland leading the bland. That's brilliant, Mitch. That is actually pretty good. Yeah, and it's a play on words from David Miscavige's ingenious concept that the blind were always leading the blind in Scientology. No, it was David Miscavige was leading the blind in Scientology. Yeah, listen, I'm going to give I want to give credit where credit is due, and that is from I first heard that from the towering genius of modern advertising, David Ogilvy of Ogilvy and Mather fame. He's the guy who did Plop Plop Fizz Fizz and the Volkswagen billboard that said "Think Big" with the little car. If you've ever seen Art and Copy, it's a documentary. I don't know if the quote's in there, but I remember reading one of David Ogilvy's books, and he mentioned something about the bland leading the bland. And so I just want to shout out to David Ogilvy. He's not around anymore, but he was like the original madman. The original madman. When you talk about Ogilvy, I mean, that's a famous name in advertising. I've even heard that. Yeah, well, that's from David Ogilvy. He was a very quotable guy. Okay, Mitch, I don't want to go into this question. It would take way too long, but it's something I would like to cover in the future. Philosophy, thank you for the question. Mitch, do you think Scientology inherently makes parents neglectful of their children or don't meet their children's needs? That is a subject which we need to talk about. That's a whole stream. In a nutshell. In a nutshell, all relationships in Scientology are transactional. Yeah, you can't have transactional relationships with children. No. So we will cover that. We'll cover different views on that, but that's a great question. Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Philosophy. Elron had spiritual deficiency. Yeah, he did. Yes, he did. That's pretty funny. Okay, let's see, guys. If you have any more questions, let's throw them in there. Please put question. It makes it so much easier. Let's see what else we have. Okay. This may be in reference to what I said earlier last night. Regina Bassart. I'm in Florida. The best thing that ever happened to me was leaving the country and knowing the freedom in this one. The whole system there is a cult. Hate it. Yeah. I agree. I think, Mitch, I was asked last night in my live what was my best experience after leaving Scientology, and it was traveling for the first time. Oh, I can't imagine. I can only imagine how amazing that would be. Yep. After being secluded, sequestered at the base. Yep. There's camera questions in here, guys. We can't cover those today, but that would be please save those questions in another live, and we'll do a Q&A where we'll open up the forum to talk about, and so you guys can get suggestions from Mitch on camera and different equipment, because he is. Well, somebody wants me to just brighten my picture. They want to see more of my face. Okay. Yeah, but I think we should cover that sometime, because I do think your stuff would be kind of amazing to talk about. It would be too long for this. Philosophy, Sterling, can you explain the difference between being trafficked and being dispersed? Now, this is interesting. This is in reference to a live I did 2 days ago, which I clarified last night. And I had said that at the ranch, they dispersed all the children to different locations. And some people took offense to that for some reason. Like the umbrella of trafficking didn't cover that already. But I used the word dispersed because that would be the correct word in that scenario. The children were already being trafficked into this organization, Scientology, and they were dispersed from one location to the next. So it's a play on words, but it didn't take away from the fact that they were already being trafficked and used as slave labor.
But I think if you every time they get repurposed, they're being trafficked.
And no question. And I even pointed out that the terminology trafficking didn't even come into my vocabulary until 2 years ago. I've always referred to it as child slave labor. So, you know what, if people are going to be big bouncy on the words there, when I said dispersed, that's because that's what happened. They were dispersed. If you think that takes away from the word trafficking, I'm sorry, it doesn't, and I'm not, and that's not how I was referring to it. So.
I mean, if I could just chime in here, I think it's important. I think when the word trafficking entered the narrative, it was important because the crime wasn't dispersion of children. The crime is trafficking. You kind of have to, because we live in such a lawyer-based, law-based country, you have to boil things down to what was wrong. We really need a different category of trafficking for Scientology. I would call it ideological trafficking, because these people that are trafficking the kids, they're not like your normal sort of, let's say, like a slave trafficker or sex trafficker. They're really looking at people as commodities, and they're saying, well, that child, I can make this much an hour off their child until they're 18, and then I can sell them again. And the Scientology child trafficker isn't looking at kids and saying, okay, if I train that kid, which won't cost me anything, and house that kid, and it won't cost me anything, and I can train that kid up to being an auditor, and then I can farm them out for $1,500 an hour to do counseling. They don't think that way, but that is what's happening. They think I'm saving that child. They think they really are so indoctrinated, it doesn't make them any less culpable. It just helps law enforcement to understand. And I wish there was this thing called ideological trafficking, which is just as bad, if not worse, than trafficking them for purely physical reasons like sex or whatever, even though they also get trafficked just for labor. So.
No, that's explaining it well. And back to my point is when I said the word dispersed, I was talking about that particular scenario, that action that was done there. It wasn't, it wasn't taking away from the general definition.
Because unfortunately, some people thought you were by saying that you were lessening the crime, which you weren't.
No, it's just a word
you
that
absolutely
came
weren't. I think it's unfortunate that we have to choose our words so carefully when we're all on the same team trying to do the same thing. And sometimes we don't even get asked for a clarification. Or somebody makes a decision about us and doesn't even really know us beyond like a superficial parasocial relationship. All parasocial relationships are superficial. And so I'm talking about a superficial relationship that's superficial. So there's a lot of stuff flying around there, but I just want to personally say I didn't think at all you were trying to lessen it. It's just you weren't using the legal language that we all prefer because we want the FBI to jump in there, So anyway,
totally get it.
That's what I think. That's all this.
Absolutely.
I hate it that we have to pick our words so carefully sometimes. I don't like that.
Okay, I'm going to pull up some of these things. Here we go. Super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Rachel Harmon. Are there any aspects of the COS you miss?
Big fat paycheck. I'm sorry. That's a horrible thing to say, because I could recreate that again, I'm sure. But no, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing that I missed. The whole thing was such a lie, such subterfuge. It's like, Sterling, I think I've heard you say this, the farther you get away from it, the bigger, what was I thinking, the louder that statement becomes.
Yes. Absolutely. And I just miss certain people that are in there. One of the reasons I started my channel,
that's a good point. People,
was hopefully that we can get some more people out of there that can enjoy the latter part of their lives. And I always go back to Mike Brown's story with his mom. I mean, that's fantastic. And whatever time they can spend together after her leaving Scientology, I think is a beautiful thing. So is a beautiful thing. Diet Coke 73. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hi, Sterling. Did Laura FM send you a package? Keep an eye out for it. I sent something for you with her Go Dodgers. No, she didn't, but I'll try to reach out and see if I can find out where that went.
Go Laura.
Blow Drill. I wanted to like Battlefield Earth so much for the first 3 minutes. I thought it might have a chance. Then the reality set in.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is funny. Human. I can always count on Sterling and Mitch for the mood lighting.
Yeah. Well, that's because I did help Sterling with his lighting.
He did help with my lighting.
He's a little, he lights, he's brighter. I'm sort of like, at my age, I kind of like to just like.
Yeah. Moody, more moody. Peggy Wolf,
I-
question for Mitch. Were you ever actually a Scientologist or just work for DM? We're not going to answer that because it is in his book and we couldn't do it justice. It's the whole beginning half of his book. So grab his book.
Yeah,
and
no, but
read
just,
it.
you should say yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I was a Scientologist for almost 5 decades. I was a Scientologist for 20 years before I went to work for the church. So, or 15 years, something like that. So, but it is a whole long story.
Yeah. Selena Casmore. Hi, Mitch. Hi, Mr. Brisker. Hello, dear chatters. I just wanted to stop by and say hi to everyone here. I've been really busy lately, but hope to be able to hang out with more of y'all soon. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you,
Selena.
Good to see you. Good to see your little picture there.
Yeah, I'm looking for any more Sterlich.
Sterlich. I like it.
Sterlich.
Yeah.
No Daniel Sander, that's not gonna stick. But hey guys, if there's any more actual questions, throw them in here. Let's see. Okay. Philosophy. I hope you didn't think Barb, I appreciate Sterling not completely ignoring my questions. I just don't like to see conflict and infighting distracts the message. Philosophy. I don't know how you could possibly think I was ignoring your questions. I think I brought them up, but in all fairness, I try to disperse the questions as much as possible so everyone gets a voice and a chance. So if you ask,
you mean you tried to traffic the questions or disperse?
Yeah. I try to vary the people I picked for the questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mitchlings. Okay.
Mitchlings. That's another one. That's Mitchling. That sounds no, Daniel Sander. Keep trying though. You're doing good. Yeah, Regina Bassart. The FBI should be investigating the trafficking at borders. Hopefully by now, they if someone is coming in on a religious visa and Scientology is the religion that is connected to it, they absolutely should be going, let me check on that person a couple weeks later or 2 months later and see what they're actually doing. Because if they're now washing dishes and doing menial labor or in a position that's not actually studying the Scientology, then they've been trafficked, right? At least to some part of the definition. Okay. Let's see if there's any other questions here, guys. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we're good. What a great group this has been. It's
a good group, and I may have missed your question, guys. I apologize for that. I do. But anyways, we go back and forth on the questions. Sorry, Mitch, you were saying.
No, I was just saying that what a great group this is.
Yes.
Was my complete statement. It's some really wonderful questions. Thanks, guys, and I appreciate your support for the book. I've gotten some really wonderful reviews, but I need more, because it really does help. And it's available on Amazon. It's also available, did I mention? It's on Barnes & Noble, and it's on Google Books, and it's on Apple Books. And as I said, I'm working on the audiobook.
Okay, great. Awesome. Guys, we're going to end off with my outro. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I should be back with Mitch next Wednesday, I hope, if we can make our schedules work.
Okay, hold on 1 second. You got to just answer this one thing. This is important.
What is it?
There's a question. Mitch, did you make the film showing at the Hollywood building, meaning the test center? The one that they were blasting to the people, the one at the big screen, I did not make that one. I kind of was involved in producing that one. I made a whole bunch of the videos in there, but I also supervised the design of all those displays, and that was like one of my projects. So I really want to go down there and apologize. I was thinking, this is my idea, Sterling, and then we can go. Yep. Maybe our viewers could let me know. I was thinking of printing like, you know, going to Kinko's or something and printing a nice, flashy handout like the church does that says, I apologize for making all the videos because they're all a bunch of propaganda and they're a bunch of crap. And I was thinking of handing out billionaire contracts if anybody wants to sign to commit themselves for having nothing to do with Scientology for 1 billion years. I thought people might like signing those. So
that's actually kind of clever too, because people are going to see those along the whole thing.
Yeah, because so I'm just trying to think of a way I could go down there and actually support what they're doing without interfering with it, because what they're doing is so amazing. I love those guys. I'm really curious about William's background, like his education and so forth. You know, what led him to become he's like a community activist.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he is.
so,
Yeah, it started with the police, right? And then it moved into.
Yeah, but I'd love to know what his background is. Anyway, I'm sorry to hijack the ending.
No, that's totally okay. Totally okay. There's still people here. They're interested. I think there was even a peeling the onion in here.
Yeah, I saw them earlier.
It's hard to keep track of all the comments. So I don't always get to all of them, and I actually always apologize for that. But it's hard to keep track of them sometimes. So I really do try. It happens every time that when we end the live, I'll go back and I'll find questions I didn't notice, and I'm bummed because they were great questions. So if you asked a question and I didn't see it, please bring it up again. Because
I mean, sometimes I'll go through them and I'll actually respond to people separately. I'll just say, hey, you have this question, and you know, if it's really super important.
Fantastic.
What's your address? I want to send you some cash. You know, I'm going to answer that one. No, it's just kidding. Anyway.
Another fail. Ella Jeans, good try.
Yeah.
Very good try.
Yeah.
Sturmit, it's actually kind of cute because it's like Kermit, but no. And then Sherry LeBrun, I think that is a great idea, Mitch. I think that is a great idea.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm thinking of having maybe Rachel come down and video it. So that would just be like the two of us, because you know Rachel Hastings and I are. She says hello, by the way, Sterling. I told her we were going to go on.
Tell her I said hi and happy New Year.
She's been super busy and not able to go on, but you know, she and I both left around the same time. It was like 2020-ish into lockdown. Like, we're the only two people. This doesn't give us some special status, but it's just an interesting fact that we're the only two people that worked at Scientology Media Productions that are out and are speaking. And
are talking about it.
I wish more people would leave from there, because it's, you know, that is the current seat of power. That is the Miscavige oligarchy. That is where he's running the whole show out of there in Los Angeles. So anyway, something to look forward to. But I was thinking of having, I haven't mentioned it to her yet. Maybe she would come down and just, you know, stream it. Like, she could be the camera person streaming it. It would be absolutely incredible. I'm thinking about it. It's you know, it's a little time consuming to do the designs for the things, get them printed up. But, you know, I'd like to go down and do some handouts, because that's what they're doing. Right. I'd like to, you know, hand them my personal apology. I want to apologize to you. I mean, you know, Apostate Alex, he said, you know, Mitch, you're one of the reasons I got into Scientology, because of all this glossy work that you did. So I'd kind of like to hand out an apology and say, look, I'm really sorry I did that.
Right.
And I'm not even joking. I really, a lot of what I'm doing is trying to say, look, I'm holding myself accountable. I wrote a book. I'm really hoping that second generation people born in the Sea York who've left would look at it and they see an older person who's an adult saying, yeah, it was all bullshit and I'm sorry, and that might help them. That hasn't really happened. It's helped my relationship with my kids. Right. But, you know, we'll see. That is one of the reasons why I wrote it. It's one of the reasons I published it. It's not one of the reasons I wrote it.
All right. So I'm going to pop this last one up, Mitch. It's Atkins in Texas. You could do a stream answering missed questions. You know, I've thought about that, but I don't know how to save the missed questions. So maybe I'll ask Aaron how that happened.
I've done that. No, I've done that. You have to go through them. You can't save them off. You could probably star them, and then they'll stay starred, and you can look at them. But I have actually done that.
Once you close out a StreamYard, it shuts that out. That's my thing.
Yeah, but it's on YouTube. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I'll figure it out. There's got to be a way to copy these and paste them.
Yeah, because I've done that, but you know, I don't have 200,000 viewers, so it's not. But I've gone back and then at the beginning of the next stream, said I want to follow through on some comments from the last one.
Fantastic.
And I think that's a good thing. So.
Fantastic.
Okay,
guys. I am going to sign off now.
And I'm going to shut up.
Not an easy thing for me to do. Being here. Let me end with my outro, and then we will talk after.
Yeah. Thanks, Sterling. Great.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?